Hi, y'all. Welcome to our very first shift, your very first episode of Behind the Apron podcast. I'm Kassy.
And I'm Manny.
And we are so excited to be here. Manny, I think that I can speak for the both of us when I say that we are truly so overwhelmed by the love and support by our followers and our friends who have actively engaged with us on social media. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's great that we have such a great support system, be it family and friends, that no matter what we're up to or what we're trying to do, we know that there's always at least going to be someone there that is going to try to help us or try to support whatever we're trying to do.
I could not have said that any better. We are so appreciative of you guys. Please don't ever forget that. Now, before we head into today's episode, please make sure that you're doing all the podcast things. Like, comment, subscribe, follow us, but also, in the spirit of love, share this episode with anyone in your contact list. Our goal for today is not only for you to listen, but for y'all to share this episode with somebody that you love. Now, are you ready, Manny? Because it's about to get wild.
I agree. It's going to be fun.
All right, y'all. So make sure that you pull up a chair, pour up a drink. Don't forget to plug in because we're about to get on a serious roll and spill some real good stories. So one thing I kind of want to ask you, babe, before we start this is, what is one thing you woke up grateful for today?
I woke up being grateful for being healthy and knowing that both you and Eddie are also healthy and are happy being at home, and you guys are both safe and sound.
Oh, I love that. I'm so grateful for you because without you, we would not be able to be doing this right here. And I'm grateful for Eddie and for you and for having you as a partner who's always down for my crazy ideas like starting this podcast.
Of course, babe. You know I'm always going to be your number one supporter, same like you do for me.
Oh, we truly make a great team. First and foremost, happy Valentine's Day to all you listening today. It's not lost on us that we wanted to release this week, mainly because Valentine's Day in the food service industry is a huge day. But also days like Mother's Day and Father's Day, along with Valentine's Day, are going to be your top 3 busiest days in the restaurant industry. They're going to be the ones with the most sales, the ones with the most traffic. You will most definitely always have a wait at the door. So that brings us to our very first question for you guys. We want to know what you all are doing on these days, especially if you work in the food service industry. Are you more inclined to go and celebrate with your significant other the day before, the day after, or do you bite the bullet and then just go regardless? I feel like ever since COVID as well, curbside and carryout have been a huge game changer for these holidays. You see more traffic for to-go sales than you normally would have 6, 7, 8 years ago. I truly think that COVID changed the game, especially if you take a step back and kind of realize that right now is peak season for flu, COVID, RSV, all that stuff. I think that people are not going to want to go out into a dining room or into a lobby and wait for an hour before they get sat and run the risk of getting sick.
I mean, sickness aside, I personally don't care about getting sick. I mainly care about the fact that I know that if I go out to eat on this day, 50% of that night or evening is going to be spent waiting, first, to be seated, and then 2, waiting on our food. Because you have to remember, this is something that, in my opinion, I feel like a lot of people who go out to eat don't understand. Your food is not the only food being prepared in that kitchen. There is an entire restaurant worth of food being made at that time when you're ordering. So I personally would rather celebrate the day before or the day after to avoid said inconveniences, in my opinion.
Yeah, but could you also argue the fact that, I feel like in the restaurant world, people are going to tell you, or in any area, I guess, of life, people are going to say, well, that's not my problem. What should be your problem or should be your priority is my table. People are going to have that argument. It's a skewed argument to have and to argue, but unfortunately, there are going to be those people that are like, I could give a shit less of who is sitting beside me and how many people or what's your biggest party in the room. Get me my food in under 15 minutes.
And that's why everyone should work at a restaurant at least once in their life.
And that is why, exactly. That's why we're here. That's why we're sharing these stories and these experiences with you guys, because there's a lot more than that goes into a dining experience from all aspects and all areas. It's a well-oiled machine. Everyone has a key role and a key part in order for your food to get to your table in an ideal 15 minutes. In an evening shift, for a dinner shift at least.
And hopefully this opens the eyes of
some Karens.
Any future guest or any people who didn't think of this beforehand, that it doesn't revolve around you. So hopefully we can teach you some restaurant etiquette that you would only learn if you work in this food service industry. I
will agree though, and I will, not to play devil's advocate, there is a time and place to be a Karen. But 98% of the time, there's no need for it. Every now and then, some Karen's arguments are warranted. 95, especially on a holiday, you have no business. You have no business bitching and moaning about why your food is taking 20 to 25 minutes when I have an hour and a half wait at the door and then a screen back 15 pages. Like, no. Fucking go to McDonald's. No shade at McDonald's, but
I mean, if you work at a food service industry, you will hear that more often than that.
Exactly. If you have a problem, cook at home.
If you have a problem with how long food's taking, you can A, cook at home, or B, go to a fast food restaurant, not a sit-down restaurant.
Yeah.
But anywho, that's neither here nor there.
And I guess that brings me to another good point. Would you rather skip the restaurant altogether, skip the carryout, and then make something with your significant other at home or for your significant other at home? That's something that would be nice too. Something intimate, something romantic, just for the two of you, whether you do it together. These are questions that as I get older, I ask myself, what is my mental health like worth?
And questions that y'all can answer in the comments.
All right, y'all. So since it's Valentine's Day and love is in the air, we want to know how many of you guys have found your significant others in the workplace. We asked you this last week. I know the answer, but Manny, how many people do you think, or actually how many people do you know personally that have found their significant other in the workplace?
Well, I know a lot of people who I work with that ended up finding someone at the workplace, be it the restaurant or an office space. So if I had to guess, I'd probably say about half or over half of people end up finding someone where they work.
Yeah, you know what? You're actually right, because over 50% of the people that responded to our poll did meet in the workspace. Now I have a burning question for you and our listeners. Manny, how did we meet?
As most of you may or may not know, Cassandra was my manager at the time that we met.
That's right. I was his manager. I was his boss. All that good stuff.
So yeah, that's why next week's episode, we'll probably get a little more.
It's going to be a good one. Next week's episode will be a good one, so you don't want to miss out. All right, Manny. So we didn't work together in the same restaurant for too long, or as long as people would actually think. But you know me, and you know the fact that if there was something crazy going on in the restaurant, or something funny happened to me personally, I always had my phone out. I was recording it. I was taking pictures. We were always having fun on our shifts.
Yes, we were. You were very much business, all the time. But once we got into the office and had some downtime, you definitely were always on your phone. More than I'd like to admit.
Oh my God, they're going to make me look bad. But for the most part, like you said, I was always business. Whenever it came down to crunch time, out in the dining room, out on the floor, out in the back of the kitchen, like work was work. But at the end of the day, or if we had some downtime, I always made it a point to kind of have fun with you guys, because I feel like that makes a great environment within the workspace.
Yeah, it does. You did make it fun as well as frustrating and stressful, but mostly fun.
But I wasn't just recording like other people like doing things. A lot of the stuff that I was recording like was happening to me. Like the amount of times that I fell within the kitchen. Luckily, I don't think I ever ate shit in the front of the house, but the amount of times I ate shit in the back or almost did was wild.
Yeah, you did catch not only yourself, but a lot of people almost falling or falling. I think I don't know if you caught me falling once, but I've definitely had my fair share of spills.
Okay, that I did not know. I am one person that I like to make a memory of the moment, or capture the moment, I guess you can say. Regardless, I was always on Snapchat, and I was actually doing some research on my Snapchat, and I was trying to go back to see when was the first time I actually recorded or saved a Snapchat memory of a Valentine's shift, and I could not find an effing single one until post-COVID in 2021. I was called into I was a manager at the time, so I worked for Cheddar's, and to this day, I love the company for what it's worth. I do love them. I'm no longer with them, but I owe them a lot. I achieved not that I owe them a lot.
Well, it's not that you owe them. They gave you an opportunity, and I mean, you used the opportunity, and it led you to these experiences that you had with me and everyone else at the restaurant that turned out to be life-lasting memories.
Yeah, that's very true. Going back to Valentine's Day, I could not find anything on my Snapchat or on my phone, any pictures from Valentine's Day. The only thing that I found was some videos on my Snapchat from the year after COVID, so in 2021, where I guess they were busier than they had anticipated, especially for to-go. And I got called in a few hours before my closing shift, and I was like, sure, I'll be there in like 15, 20 minutes. I ended up staying the entire night because I was the closer. And at the end of the night, I was just kind of ranting with some team members in the office, and we were doing like a little rundown of our shift, and it was insane. One thing, Manny, that you can attest to is that I give myself to my job. I'm constantly pouring like more time into my job than like is expected of me. And I don't know if it was because I was like single. I didn't have family in Orlando when I lived there, but I was always the first person that they would call. And I guess it benefited them that I lived like 5 minutes from work, but I was always there.
Yeah, you definitely were. You were always on call no matter what happened. And that definitely did not help that you lived like 5 minutes from the place. Because, I mean, that's how they get you.
Yeah, but I truly didn't mind. Like, I loved doing it. It's almost for me, I take so much pride in that. Like the fact that they know and I know that they can call me if they need me. And even if they don't call me, if something is popping off in our manager group chat and they're kind of like losing their minds, like I was always like, do you need me? Like I'm literally right down the road. I can be there. And sometimes they'd be like, no, don't worry about it. Like, it's fine. It's your day off. Or sometimes they'd be like, no, come help. And there I was showing up. Now, the first Valentine's Day after COVID, a lot of the very first holidays after COVID were very different in the restaurant world because a lot of people were leaning towards takeout and carry out or curbside. And that was something I think that restaurants like Cheddar's were not like
equipped to deal with.
Yeah, they weren't. So those first few holidays, like Mother's Day was literally, I think I still get PTSD from it to this day. Like it was so bad. But the first Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day, like it was truly a nightmare. And this Valentine's Day was the first after COVID, and it was nothing short of a nightmare. I remember like I did not leave the CA line whatsoever at all. Did you work that day?
Nope.
Oh my God, of course you didn't. But yeah, I remember that day. I'm pretty sure we were like running on like sugar and caffeine. Like literally, I think I was running on like a lollipop and Monsters. It was unreal. Truly unreal.
I mean, that's just the nature of the day. I'm pretty sure, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to call me in and I said no.
Oh my God.
I don't want to deal with all that.
And I actually even had said in the video that I was taking, like talking to everybody, that we had actually hit $26,000 that Valentine's Day for that location. That was actually a pretty average that was an average weekend sale, but the fact that it was after COVID and a lot of those sales came through curbside was completely mind-boggling.
To go was definitely something that I feel like definitely grew, because I know when I first started, I didn't even know that we did to go like that. I thought it was like we do to go food. I thought to go was only like, when the table orders like to go food. I didn't know it had its own section and department and like do curbside and all that jazz.
Yeah, it was wild. But you know what? Relocating to Orlando made me stronger, because I come from a small town. And so you, babe, that you've moved to this small town in South Texas, you know that the
clientele
is very different. You're on the border. You have one restaurant.
You have one concept of a restaurant, basically, in this area.
So you'll have one Olive Garden, one Longhorn, one Red Lobster, one Texas Roadhouse. It's different in Orlando, where you have 4 or 5 of each and you have more options. And so you also have to understand that Cheddar's is not an Applebee's. You're not going to go to Cheddar's and get fucked up. You're not going to order 7-8 rounds of shots.
People do it though.
Every now and then. Yeah. At least not here. At least not in South Texas. In the small town that we're in, you're not. This was before I was a manager, when I was a bartender at Cheddar's. I think it was my very first Valentine's Day that I worked as a bartender. And I was so underwhelmed at how little money I made. It was like embarrassing. I think I walked out with less than $50 as a bartender, as the closing bartender.
Well, at the end of the day, you have to also remember that even though you were the closing bartender, whatever money you end up making has to be split on. Well, I was gonna say unfortunately, but it's not unfortunate. It's fair. Like, you're both working together as a team, because especially on holidays.
Split with who though? You didn't say.
Well, I mean, you're with the other bartender.
Yeah.
Because on holidays like that, you don't only run one bartender. You typically run 2. You have one person taking care of the bar top and one person taking care of the well, which is making the drinks for the rest of the store. So, and if you're lucky, like in Orlando, they give bartenders their own section, which helped us.
I think as a bartender, I had to literally beg the hosts to reiterate to the guests, it's an hour wait, but the bar top is, full service. You can get a drink or you can wait at the bar. And if people were waiting at the bar, this was a mistake that we were doing back then. If people were waiting at the bar, they would order a drink, open the tab, and then if they got their table, they would ask for us to transfer their ticket to their table. And it's like, no, like, cash out and fucking tip me. Tip me $3 off of your $6-7 beer. Like,
it's a different experience.
Also, I feel like that can kind of be like a telltale of how cheap a motherfucker can be. You can't close out your $5-6 tab of a beer and tip me $2-3.
That's people for you. That's the service industry. Again, it's an experience like no other.
Yeah,
that's what we're here for.
You would think that after so many years in the food service industry and all the areas of responsibility that I've worked within, that I would have more patience than I do.
You had a very short fuse when it came to us.
No, I had a very short fuse for bullshit. And a lot of the times you guys would want to joke around and play around and mess around when it was crunch time and we had shit to do. So it was like, no, I'm not putting up with that shit.
I guess.
And you have to understand, at the time I was managing a multi-million-dollar restaurant at the age of 25. Obviously not by myself, right? Like there's it's a whole team, but that restaurant is just it's such a great restaurant, and they don't just put anybody there. It's kind of an honor. I felt like such a badass being able to come back home to my small town and visit and be like, yeah, I'm running or working at one of the busiest Cheddars in the company. It felt pretty good. And I think you also noticed it a little bit when you moved from Orlando to Texas after right before we were having the baby. I think you noticed the clientele difference when you transferred to Olive Garden.
Yeah, it is very different. People, I mean, yes, it was different in the sense that people definitely tip a lot less and less often here than in Orlando. Like, at least in Orlando, even if they didn't tip me well, they would at least leave me something. When I moved over here, there were plenty of days when I would work a full shift and not even break 100. And that's the most demoralizing thing about being a server.
Yep. Truly sucks. And it humbles you like I think no other job probably could. No lie, other jobs probably could, but yeah, it's rough. All right, babe, I have one last question for you before we end our podcast. As an employee, what is your thoughts on taking a shot of alcohol before a hectic shift, i.e. Valentine's Day? Would you? Have you ever?
No, I don't. I mean, this is me personally, again, because you're asking me. Me personally, I don't think I need it. Again, not everyone's the same. I operate differently from a lot of other people whom I work with. I know people who they can't work or operate properly without an energy drink, B, some sort of alcohol, or C.
Okay, energy drink and alcohol are two very different things.
I mean, obviously, but they they're used for the same purpose, to take either the edge off or to whatever the reason may be. But long story short, no, I've never been the type to drink energy drinks or like take a shot during a shift. Definitely not.
No, absolutely not.
Before, neither. I don't. Probably after, I'll go grab a drink, or with the people who I work with, if they want to go grab a drink after such a chaotic day, because those days are never easy or fun or simple. No, I just go about my day. I tackle one problem at a time. I try to not let it get to me, because I've had plenty of shifts that were not fun. I personally didn't work that many Valentines because I had a set schedule, which is why you didn't hear me so much this episode. I didn't have that many stories. The only thing I could think of was my early days in the service industry at my first job ever.
At a mom and pop
shop, a little pizzeria called Mama Romano's. Shout out to them. It, again, a very small mom and pop. So there's no host. There's no organization. We had to keep ourselves organized.
There's no host, there's no busser.
Yes, we did it all. So
you had how many tables did you have in the restaurant?
There were 5 booths along the wall, and the tables could be split.
So you're basically, because the original one is the one that we've been to, right?
Yes.
The original one. So you're basically like in a little strip mall. You're in a strip mall.
It's that small.
It's a little nook, but it's great.
I love them. They're great. The owners are great. I know them personally. The owner, he left the door open. He wanted me to come back, but that was a chapter of my life I was ready to close and move on. And I feel like this mom and pop shop was definitely a little different. Like, their clientele was equally strong, both for dine-in and to go. There'd be times where you could have a full dining room and a line heading to the door for people to just, because, to make a long story short, you could walk in and just order a slice in like 2 minutes, and like, just people wanting to do that would.
You could order a slice.
Yeah, you can just walk in. They had lunch specials. The most famous lunch special was, I believe it was a 2 slice and a drink combo. I'm pretty sure. And that, they would have pizzas that are like pre-made, like throughout the morning, that they put on display, and that's where they grab the slices from. They would fly through those pizzas in minutes. Within the first lunch rush, should be down 2-3 pepperoni pizzas. Damn. So they're just constantly, but the point I was trying to make,
but it's authentic. It's not as borrow. Like, you're not like.
Yes, everything is made in store.
It's so good.
That's one thing I will give them very much a lot of credit for. Everything there, nothing is obviously with their bought, but everything is made, all their seasonings, all the dough, whatever they make there, 95% of it is made there
it
at
doesn't
the store.
come out of a box and then just go straight into the oven. Like,
Yes.
you make it.
It's my favorite in the morning. We're making the garlic nuts. Those were very fun to do. That's a nice memory that I have of that place. But stories that I can have, I don't remember much, but I can just remember it just being so hectic because on days like that, they try to schedule 3 servers. But even then, well, you have to understand it's a very small place. But even then, if you had 2 good servers, you could handle it. But then again, going back to it, not having a host or anything like that, it can get very crazy because
and very quick.
People just walk in, and if they were regular, they know that you walk in, you see an open spot, that's your table.
Oh, it's
there's
like,
no
please wait to be seated.
Yes, it is not a wait. It's just you see a table, hey, that's mine. So at that point, it's also kind of where I learned how to stay organized and the importance of working with people who are good at what they do, because
and not just hire somebody with a heartbeat.
Yes, because that could make or break that small store. Because if you have a server who's not
lazy
on top of it, and as soon as they see someone either realize whose turn it is, it can definitely mess things up. I will never forget the day when I first saw the owner step in that pizza area and start throwing that dough around. Like, I was flabbergasted. I had never seen that man move like that.
That's very respectable, because you want a great leader. Like, you want somebody.
You don't want someone who's just a fly on the wall, that they just know one thing
in the corner.
That all they do is they are known for one thing and one thing only. They manage the store. That's what they pride themselves. I hate working with managers like that.
Yeah, you want to be you want to work with a good management team or a good manager or a leader that has no problem getting down and dirty. And that's one thing that I learned as a corporate trainer before I went into management, was you have to learn when to fall back. You also have to learn timing wise when to step in and help, because you obviously don't want to babysit everyone, and you have to know when to jump in, when to fall back, and then when to let them kind of sink a little bit, because you're not always going to be there. Unfortunately, as a great leader, you have to let them. It's like parenting. You have to let them fall and let them get back up. The
industry is a very, very much sink or swim. And sometimes it's like that. You have to I'll never forget, I've had to train people, and sometimes you just have to throw them in the deep end and see if this is for them, because unfortunately,
it's not for everyone.
It is definitely not. I have seen many servers come and go because they're just not people person. That is, in my opinion, that is the number one key to be a successful
You have to have a servant's
server.
heart.
You need to be when I say people person, I don't mean a people pleaser. When I say people person, I mean someone who knows how to handle all kinds of individuals.
But not only, because you can know how to handle all types of individuals, but you also have to have the heart for it. Like, if you don't have the heart or the passion to truly love what you do and the passion to serve others, then that will differentiate you from being a waitress or a waiter to being a server.
Those are the kind of people that you can clearly tell the difference. That people come back for servers, they don't come back for waiters.
Yep. And people come back for experiences. They
do.
They do.
One of these episodes, we'll definitely get into general crazy stories and not just Valentine's Day themes, because unfortunately I don't have that many.
But overall, general crazy stories, we could write a book.
Yeah.
Like a Guinness World Record. Each one is a different story.
A very long documentary.
Yeah. So we're going to head into our post shift and kind of give you guys a little wrap up. And yeah.
Okay, guys, so as we wrap up this episode, we want to go ahead and introduce you guys to our Backstage Bite segment. It's going to be stories from all around, be it from our viewers or listeners or close friends of ours whom we have worked and struggled with side by side, managers that we may know, be it retired or still in the industry. What this segment is going to be, this is going to be anywhere from crazy stories to wholesome moments that have happened on or after a shift. And this is something I'm personally looking forward to a lot, because that is, when you're a food service industry employee, those are the things that stick with you. The crazy moments, the wholesome moments, those are the things that make you remember and look back upon those days. And those are the things that never leave you. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's something that I'm fairly excited for, especially since we get to hear a lot of crazy stories from a lot of our friends and family, people who we consider family.
Y'all heard him. We cannot wait to hear your stories. So please send those in as soon and as fast as you can. Now, Manny, I know I asked you this question a little while ago and you answered it, but now I want to give you guys, our listeners, the opportunity to answer too, because I'm kind of curious. What is y'all's opinion on taking one single shot of any type of liquor or alcohol or a type of shot right before a busy, hectic shift like Valentine's Day? I know Manny answered no, but I am personally green light go. I think that it's not going to do enough to truly affect me in a negative way. And if it's going to give me a little boost of energy, kind of like drinking a Monster or coffee, I'm personally down for it. So let us know in the comments down on YouTube or on Instagram, because we'll be asking you the same question there. All right, y'all, that does it. We are at the end of our shift. Manny, how do you feel?
I feel great, and I can't wait to see where the podcast is going to go, and I'm very excited to hear everybody's stories.
He cannot stop talking about these stories. We are so excited to hear from you, so get those stories sent in ASAP.
And if you're working tonight, I hope you make a shit ton of money.
Happy Valentine's Day, guys. Remember to share this episode with somebody that you love, and don't forget to clock out. See you next week, foodies.